What's the most that you've ever lost in a coin toss? Call it. I can't call it for you. You've been putting your whole life to it, up until this review. This coin has been traveling for 22 years, you just didn't know it. So call it. Call it by the end of the video. Just call it. No Country for Old Men is a 2007 Western film directed by the Coen Brothers, and it stars the actors of Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, and Tommy Lee Jones. So this movie is about a drug deal that has gone completely wrong, and it's set in the year 1980. And it is about this character named Lolo Mas who was involved with that drug deal that got completely wrong, and he is on the runaway. But while he's running away, he is being tracked by this killer named Anton Chigurh, which is played by Javier Bardem. And as these two characters are basically chasing each other, or Anton is chasing Lolo and Mas, you have Tommy Lee Jones, who plays this Texas sheriff who is just investigating the murders, following their footsteps, and discovering the past. And then when you see this movie, you see these events that are unveiled to the audience. You begin to witness everything that happens frame by frame. And now you got yourself one of the most intense thrillers ever to exist in the 21st century. No Country for Old Men is one of those rare movies that you ever get to see in cinema, because this movie is just extremely flawless. This is a cinematic masterpiece and one of the Coen Brothers' best movies ever. And I also love their other work, with Fargo and then The Big Lebowski. But No Country for Old Men has to be my favorite of theirs because of just how suspenseful, intense, and brutal this movie was. I love a lot of things about this movie: the cinematography, the direction, the writing, the acting. I can go on and on and on about how these aesthetics really work for a movie like No Country for Old Men, and how this movie really gripped me because of the suspension and the intensity of the film. I first have to praise the performances of this movie. Josh Brolin, great. Tommy Lee Jones, good. But Javier Bardem was the #1 actor who stole the show for me because of how frightening he played Anton Chigurh. Anton Chigurh is one of the most realistic and frightening characters I've ever seen portrayed in film. He did remind me a lot of Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, as well as Darth Vader from Star Wars. And that is because Anton Chigurh, the character, is very complex and psychotic. And what makes this movie very frightening through Javier Bardem's performance is just how unpredictable he is. He makes the same facial expression for almost every scene, and you do not know what is going on in his brain. You do not know how he operates. You only know that he operates with killing others because he has to, or he's assigned to this job. But what makes this very scary is that you may never know what he's going to predict next. In fact, that's what makes this performance so Oscar-worthy and amazing. He's very worthy of the Best Supporting Actor award because of how he made the character of Anton Chigurh very unpredictable of what he's going to do next. And what makes Anton Chigurh very frightening is that he is also a very intelligent villain. He knows how to operate. He knows how to use the environment around him, and as well as the resources that he has and how he can help himself. Another unique thing about No Country for Old Men is how this movie uses silence to its greatest degree. There is rarely a movie soundtrack in this movie, and the only sounds that you get are cars driving, guns firing, the wind, and then you even have people speaking through dialogue scenes. And the only time you get music is within the third act, which is diegetic music. For those of you who do not know what diegetic music is, that is music that is playing within the movie. It's not movie soundtrack where the characters don't hear it. Diegetic music is, let's say you have a scene where someone's playing the guitar, and here is an example of how diegetic music is used in No Country for Old Men. The biggest thing I really have to praise No Country for Old Men for is its screenplay, because this movie has one of the strongest screenplays ever presented in cinema. And what I love about how this movie was made is the amount of devotion that was put by the Coen Brothers when they were writing the screenplay, because this movie is based off the novel adaptation by Cormac McCarthy, and how they had to adapt everything in terms of dialogue, the settings, the environment, making sure that everything about this movie is detailed and faithful to its source material. And just seeing a screenplay like this put in film can inspire other screenplay writers out there. And this movie has some of the most memorable dialogue scenes, especially like with my intro of this video that was from the coin toss scene between Anton Chigurh and the owner of the store. It's very suspenseful, it's frightening, it's one of the best scenes ever placed in cinema. Similar to films such as Blade Runner 2049, 1917, Skyfall, and Fargo, the cinematographer for this movie is Roger Deakins. Roger Deakins is truly the king of cinematography, because when you watch this movie, his shots are amazing once again. He nails it out of the park. And the way how this movie is filmed is meant for cinema alone. Nothing else can really top the cinematography of what Roger Deakins does. And it's just when you watch this movie, you know that this is meant to be seen in the big screen. You know about how everything is staged and how everything is shot, and how all these things that were shot on location just feel so breathtaking and amazing. And that is why the cinematography alone is worth praising as well for No Country for Old Men. If you are someone that appreciates cinema for what it is, you need to check out No Country for Old Men. 13 years later, from 2007 to 2020, this movie still feels like it came out yesterday. It's worth your watch, and this is a movie that people really need to check out. It even won Best Picture for 2007, and therefore I have to give No Country for Old Men a 10 out of 10. Believe it or not, I got a fun fact. I actually did some research with this movie, and I realized that there are these group of psychologists that studied 400 films in total, and when they came to No Country for Old Men, they realized that the presentation of Anton Chigurh is one of the most realistic psychopaths ever portrayed in cinema. And that just goes to the greatest extent of why the portrayal by Javier Bardem is so frightening. But thank you so much for watching, guys. It's so nice to have another video for y'all. There are more videos coming, I promise. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, people.